Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. I am joined, as always, by Matt Carlson. Matt, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Wish I was doing a little better at Turfway. The ADW looked a lot nicer last week when they weren't running. Disasters or snowstorms aside, but otherwise can't complain. So
My bank account looked a lot better last week when they weren't
yeah, I was
running,
gonna
when
say,
nothing was running.
natural disasters aside and putting people in danger, the wallet was looking pretty healthy when nothing else was
Yep.
going. So
Yeah, I'll tell you, like there's something about the bank account or the ADW account after a nice hit, where like for like a couple months, like it just looks healthy, and then like you just kind of like revert back to the mean, and it's like, what the hell are we doing here? But yeah, no, Turfway's been tough. I went 4 out of 5 on that carry, and it ended up only paying like $900, and so I wasn't like too upset. I mean, I was a little upset because I mean, obviously you want to hit everything, right?
yeah,
But I was like, all right, well, at least it wasn't like 3 grand, 4 grand, or whatever. But uh, yeah, I think I ran like second, third, and fourth in the leg I missed, and it just was pretty painful to miss that way. But it happens. Um, but yeah, other than that, like I said, like I've talked about this at length this week. But outside of Turfway, I haven't really been playing much. Um, I fired at a horse at Gulfstream today because one of our buddies really liked it, and then um, I don't I asked my group chat, hey, how did that horse run? And I'm pretty sure Caleb responded with the Chuck E. Cheese meme of just like the messed up looking Chuck E. Cheese animatronic thing that just like looks like really panicked. So that told me all I needed to know about my win bet on that horse. Um, but no,
that
other
horse
than
is,
that,
is still running. Yes, that horse is still
yeah,
going.
he's still running.
It might be off the
He's
track by
still
tomorrow,
going.
but
Quick production note or production meeting during the show, or whatever we want to call it. But Matt, I was thinking, right? We have one day a week or one day a month that Sha Tin runs Friday nights. So I propose that when that happens, one, we try and catch it early, and I don't think about it Thursday morning or Thursday evening, and then realize like, hey, we're too late to record an episode. But I think maybe that one day a month, maybe we do a little live thing. We
and
we'll go live maybe half hour before first post. We'll talk about some of the races, maybe stay on for a race or two, and then we'll do that. So just putting that out there. We'll I think you said the next one might be the 30
this month
first.
might be screwy. I think the 31st is like a Thursday into a Friday. So
Oh,
we
oh,
might be working the next day. So we might not be
yeah.
doing
So
that.
so
But
maybe that's not going to work this month, but I'm trying to get that out there, get that idea out there. I'm trying to be better about getting our schedule out a little bit ahead of time. I know there was at least one panicked voice that said, "Did something happen to the podcast?" And so we want to rest assured, no, nothing has happened. What has happened is since the Breeders' Cup, Josh has not been playing horses as much, and so I have not been as pushy about getting content out. But new year, new me. We're getting back out there, regular schedule. All that's going to happen. Obviously, this week we had the full gamut. We had Drank Champagne. We got You've Got to Be Sha Tin and Me, and then we had our live stream on Thursday. So yeah, I think, and we covered a lot of ground. We got Oak Lawn covered on Drinking Champagne. We played some Turfway live, and we covered the late pick five at Fairgrounds on our live stream, and then you got Hong Kong, right? So if you didn't lose enough money during the day from our picks or our insight, well, guess what? You can lose it over a grand period of uh, I don't know, 12 hours, 14 hours or something. Which does remind me, Matt, did I ever tell you my like the way I would reprogram the NHC
Yeah, we've talked about this
Have
where
we
we
talked
make it
about
like
it?
where I think we both had the same idea where we make it like the Le Mans of racing, like just 48 hours straight of like you bet all these tracks you never heard of. You got to bet harness, you got to bet like, maybe there's some dogs in there, like
Oh
international
man.
races, like you're
Yeah.
going like there's those days I think, and I think it's actually coming up like the best day to do it is in a couple weeks or even it might be next week when they start running like the Saudi races and the Dubai races
Mhm.
because you can literally bet like graded races from 8 in the morning till like 6 in the morning. And
Yeah.
like just run an event where you got to bet them all, right? Like straight
Yeah.
Pokemon, 50 races a day, like minimum.
I
So
always laugh because I think about like when I play the Hawthorne tournaments, and I feel like maybe I probably approach it like the wrong way, but like I'm literally firing the entire time. Like I think everyone else is like measured, has got like three or four plays that they're gonna make, right? But me, I'm like no, like I got $500, I got $300, whatever I have. It's like I'm playing $20 exactas every single freaking race, and I'm hoping I hit like five of them. And these guys, I'm sure everyone's got like a much like better approach to it, but I'm like at the end of the day, and I'm like sweating because I've just literally been handicapping for 6 hours straight. But you know,
it
uh,
would I've always thought like if I ended up playing the BCBC, like it would look bad because you'd scroll down the leaderboard and if I was for some reason like still alive at the end of it, you'd see like minimums bet 25. Like it would just not be like so it'd be like, wow, that's a weird strategy. You'd be like, yeah,
these
yeah,
these
this
stupid action junkies. What the hell is going on?
just betting the
Um,
minimum every race. That's great.
oh man, I remember one contest. I was with Brian Duransky, and um, I think Sheldon might have been. No, I don't know if Sheldon was there. I think this might have been one of the COVID years where I was playing with Brian and a couple other buddies of ours, and the guy who had just won the NHC tour, I think the year before. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Um, but he literally rolls in like for the last like probably like 4 or 5 races you could possibly bet for the entire Hawthorne contest. And I'm like sitting there, like me and Brian had been firing the entire day, and then all of a sudden, right, this guy's like showing up. He's basically trying to win the contest in the last like 3 4 races, and I'm like that's probably a better plan than me sitting here all day, trying to nickel and dime my way to the top. But you know, uh, I mean, different strokes for different folks. Like for me, right, like the $300, $500 buy-in, like that's like a heavy weekend of betting. For some of these guys, that's like a win bet, So like
Yeah.
for them, they treat it a little bit differently. It's just like anything else, any other kind of gambling. I was on the Vegas subreddit, and someone was talking about like their gamble or like how do people bet so much, and he like I think I forgot what he mentioned, but he like mentioned something like how do people bet like $100 a hand blackjack, right? Something like that. And I'm like, bro, people are betting $10,000 a hand blackjack, let alone $100 a
Yeah,
hand.
you're barely
Like
getting comps at
I'm like
$100
$100 a
blackjack this
hand,
morning.
like $100 a hand is I'm not gonna say like attainable for us or anything like that, but like I I cannot in good conscience say I would never bet $100 on a hand of blackjack, right? Like I could definitely in good conscience say I would never bet $10,000 on a hand of blackjack, and there are definitely guys out there that's what they're firing. I mean, hell, I was playing when I was playing craps last time. It was a $15 table, and I had way over $100 on the table multiple times. So um, but it's all just a matter of scale, and we've definitely just completely jumped the shark and talking about something that I don't even know why the heck we're talking about it, because everyone's here not to hear us talk about bet sizing and how we're a bunch of idiots, but they want to hear us talk about a little bit of Sha Tin here, and we're gonna start with race 9, the Mr. Vitality handicap. We got a 7 furlong race, 1,400 meters, the old unicorn distance here. And, I'm going to be honest with you, Matt. I did not get very creative in this race. I saw James McDonald and I saw Zach Purton, and I ate both of them, and I'm moving on. Um, Honestly, like on paper, the best horse in this race is probably the one on paper, but there's a lot of question marks here, right? You got a horse that had three straight wins, moved up in the class, in the class three where we're racing right now, and then kind of just he just didn't have it. And it looks like, there was a little bit of trouble there. And, Zach kind of wrapped the horse up for the last furlong or two, and, just didn't happen. And then you kind of look and all of a sudden Zach's not on this horse anymore. So, you got a couple questions there, like what's going on? Like Zach got off, didn't run all that well last time out. Has back races that, I mean, absolutely fit and win this race, but I got some questions there, especially because you see Zach get aboard this 9 horse Romantic Sun. That's only got 4 starts, but I don't know. He looks like he's pretty well met in this spot. Obviously started off at Happy Valley, finished second by a half length, and then has been in the money another time. Last time out, out in the 10 post, gets a slightly better draw here, drawn in the 7 post. Um, and I just think that, I mean, fifth time up, fourth, fifth time up for these types of horses, that's usually where I think like they really got to win, and I think this is really like a have to win type spot for this horse. I mean, Zach has stayed aboard for all these starts, so yeah, I gotta assume he's been seeing something in the morning. Maybe this is just kind of a slow mover. Maybe just need a little bit of time. So the 9 Romantic Suns definitely make my tickets. And then another lightly raced horse here, the 4 Bundle Award. You saw a pretty big jump from the first time out to second time out here for this horse. Ended up finishing third by a length and a quarter. And just kind of had I think just a better trip, a better run last time out, and now you're getting James McDonald. You're getting another good draw here, and I just think once again, like lightly raced horse, going against not necessarily a bunch of world beaters, and yeah, I just think Bundle Award is set here, is primed to kind of break its maiden in this race. Um, I think if I were to go any further, I'd probably use the 3 Sky Trust, but I'm a little concerned maybe about the draw. But then I don't know. He's kind of weird because if you look at the races that he's won, they were both from wide draws. So I don't know. This is a horse that wants to be wide draw. I don't know. Um, but I thought the 3 obviously is got back races that fit here as well. But maybe makes my ticket as a B type. But definitely the 4 and the 9 are going to get most of my money. Those are my 2 A's. Where did you land, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw it kind of similar to you. I thought this was a pretty competitive race. I do like the 3 a lot. I think if you look at them on paper, at least the stuff that I run, that 3 Sky Trust far and away kind of looks like the best horse just from a figs perspective. The draw, like you said, doesn't really concern me. The rails are in, and I mean, I think one thing that I try and remember is when the rails move in, draw matters at least a little bit less. Not that it doesn't matter, but right, you lose less ground inherently because the turns are tighter and being 3 wide, it's a geometry thing. Anyway, so I think I'll use that as an A. I do think I like this horse cutting back to 1400. I think the 7 furlong races look a lot better than the 1600, right? I mean, it can kind of sit that stalking trip, which I think is better suited. I think it just, probably can't get the distance for a full mile. And those 3 and 4 back races really do look kind of best on paper here. To the wide draw comment too, I do think there's something to that, especially when you have a horse moving forward, right? They can kind of angle in, and they don't get as much unless they get completely caught wide. On a speed horse, sometimes it is beneficial because you're outside of horses, right? So you can kind of have that free run where if you break bad inside, you really can't do anything, right? There's nowhere to go. You're kind of trapped behind horses. You have to slot in, and if that's what a horse doesn't want to do, then yeah, you're kind of screwed. So, all that said, I think I'll definitely use the 3 as an A. On the 4 Bundle Award, I'm with you, right? I mean, I love the jockey upgrade to JMac. I'm probably, more so than even Zach here. I just probably will blindly bet JMac on everything, regardless. I think he's kind of coming back with a vengeance, coming off suspension too. So I expect him to win a fair amount here. And so while that horse looks kind of slow on paper, I do think closing into a slow pace last time and kind of that, progressing horse is really appealing. So I think I'll use that as an A as well. I tried to get around Zach here. I don't know. That horse just looks slow, and I do think Zach has just taken so much money lately with the whole like chasing wins and like ringing the bell every time he gets in. And I mean, it continues to burn me because he keeps moving that number down as he chases like the Hong Kong win record. But I don't know. I just don't want to use it here. I mean, I think JMac being here makes this too competitive, and I think kind of Zach taking so much money. It's just one I want to get around. The one that you mentioned, I do think has kind of looks hurt, right? If you look at that two back start, if you read the comments on it, it was bleeding. It had a blood and trachea. It says at the end of that comment line, and then even though it won that race, really didn't run well, and then kind of came back and ran really poorly next out. And the trials even haven't looked too good. So something's going on there. And so I think because of that, you could probably toss the one. I probably just walked it in the winner's circle, but yeah. Um, and then I mean, there's a few others even that I think you could argue, are worth using kind of in the lower weights. I think the 10 New Forest first up, those trials have looked really good. I don't know how much money this horse takes, but I do generally like firsters here. I mean, I just think no matter how well they run in trials, you never see them get below 4 or 5 or 6 to 1. And I mean, I think it fits, right? Mark Newton's been absolutely on fire, and yeah, I mean, I see no reason that this horse can't compete in this field. It's a decent field, but you definitely got to get a price. So I want to use that one. I would use the 12, but I don't know. Cody Moe just gives me a ton of
Hmm.
concern. So I think you can make an argument for winning wing second up, but yeah, the draw's wide, and like I said, I don't know. You can't really use that horse. Um, and then the 14 Kaiying Superb, I think, is the only other horse that I'd want to use. I think this is one that looks like it's been progressing a little bit. Um, I do think, when a horse arguably like its figs are moving one way, it's moving up, and the weight's moving down. I mean, this horse is going off at 115. There is a decent amount of speed signed on here, but hey, at 115, maybe it just gets the lead and can wire this whole thing around. So I think I'll use the 10 and the 14 as Bs, and use Sky Trust the 3 and bundle lower the 4 as As in here. And hopefully Zach doesn't just burn me and kind of kill my ticket early.
Fading Zach. Love to see it.
It's a theme. You hear it throughout. I'm one trick, you know. I hit a 40 to 1 once every 40 races, and I'm a genius, It's like whatever. So Zach wins the other 39, but it's fine.
uh, Race 10, the Able Friend Handicap. This was probably the toughest race for me, because obviously we're going 2,000 meters, and you know you don't have a lot of horses in this race that have gone the 2,000 meters, so you kind of gotta use your imagination, I think, a little bit here in this race. So interested to see where you ended up here.
Yeah, I think my big stance here was that I was going to try and get around Bravehearts. I thought, and again, Bravehearts ran definitely a competitive race last out, but I do think it kind of had its own way with that field. There was a decent pace up front, and because of the wind, right, it picks up what 8 pounds on this field, or
Hmm.
8 pounds from the last run. So to me, I'm like, okay, it wasn't that impressive where I would think it can make up the 8 pound gap, especially at such a long distance, right? So that's the one I'm probably trying to get around in here. I do like Winning Dragon. I think if you look at that shared race, right, like they both kind of ran in that same 2,000 meter race last out. Uh, Winning Dragon finished second, but if you look into the first turn, it was 3 wide, so it probably was running, kind of wide the whole way around, and still fought onto the line. So I think, hey, if you see that horse kind of keeping the same weight, whereas you have the horse it lost to by a couple lengths, picking up 8 pounds, that's enough to make that up, right? So, Winning Dragon the 4 is kind of where I'd want to go out of that 2,000 meter race last out. Otherwise, I do think in these long races, right, jockeys matter a lot more. And if you look at the numbers, right, both Zach and JMac, I think, are like 30 to 35% at these 2,000 meter races. Um, so to me, I just want to use both and kind of move on. Like I'll use both the two Stunning Peach, who I have no idea if it's going to take the 2 turns. To your point, um, you know, who knows? But it's worth a shot, right? Zach's numbers at 2,000 meters are just insane. So it's kind of a blind bet, but I do think maybe you get a little bit of value because it hasn't run that, and Zach might just make up for it. And on that same note, right, to six Romantic Thor, I think the biggest jockey upgrade you could see here is Alex Pouchin to James McDonald, right? Pouchin has one win out of like 100 something races here. He's just been
Mm.
not great, and I think that one of those wins was at like 1,000 meters, just running straight. So we didn't really have to do anything except sit on the horse. Um, look, that horse closed into a slow pace last time to take third. Uh, that's a big run from that jock who hasn't done much otherwise. So I think J Mac at a price, I would just probably blind bet that. And so the second justify James or yeah, what second justify horse I'll be betting in this sequence too. But yeah, I mean I think again anytime you put money on J Mac to me and get a decent price on him, you have to. So that's where I'll go. I'll be 246, a little bit wide in here, but just kind of take the best jocks, take the horse that I think has an excuse from last out, and hopefully get through it.
Yeah, I think the four is probably my top pick in this race. Um, I kind of looked at this race and I I was trying to kind of figure out who the leader was going to be, who was going to be on the front end, and I th- there's just like not very much like there's not like a clear leader in here, and I think maybe there's a shot that the four just kind of maybe inherits the lead on accident. Maybe the 13, maybe Hewitson sends a bit, because he's kind of drawn way out wide, and that's probably his only option. But even when that happens, like I think the four is going to sit a really nice trip in this race. He's got a nice draw, right? He's drawn in the four post, so he's got options. He can either, you know, go to the lead, probably get the rail, and because in like drawn inside of him is not much speed, um, and just sit basically clear, or he can just let the speed go in front of him and he can sit under some cover and sit in that second flight pretty easy. So I really think the four is going to get a nice trip here. And the four is obviously one at this distance, pretty accomplished at this distance. I mean, okay, let's cross the line through that grade two because probably in a little bit over his head, but his last three tries outside of group company, I mean, he's got a fourth, he's got a win, and he's got a second, right? Two at grade three, two in class three, and he's got a nice run in class two as well. So, um, yeah, I like the four in this spot quite a bit. Um, I'm not as against Bravehearts as you are. I'm not gonna leave this one off my ticket just because I mean this is a pretty accomplished 2,000-meter horse at this point. Um, Matthew Poon has ridden him the last four times out, and has got three wins in that time. Um, so yeah, I can't really leave this one off my ticket. I mean, maybe he's going to be just extremely short in the spot, but yeah, I mean, I have Bravehearts written down as a B. The other horse I actually really like is the three Mickley. Um, and this is another one of the horses that first time going 2,000 meters. You see Giants Causeway on the bottom, so I think distance should be fine. I'm not 100% sure on Soldier's Call. You might have a little bit more data than I do on how that horse does, going a long distance. But um, obviously, this is a horse that's got to win at a mile. Hugh Bowman has ridden this horse, the last four times. Um, but I think this is another horse that is definitely gonna is got a really nice closing kick, and maybe with the stretch out here, going the extra 2 furlongs here, um, you know maybe that's gonna help. That's gonna help this horse here kind of get that extra, stay a little bit closer to the front end and still be able to show off that turn of foot at the end. Because, I mean, like, if you kind of just look at the running lines on this horse, right? I mean, this horse was 12th and then finished fourth by 2 lengths, right? This horse was 10th and then finished one by a neck, right? So this horse has definitely got some nice turn of foot. And so I think maybe with a longer distance, maybe you can be able to show that off a little bit more. And I just like I said, I like the fact that Hugh Bowman stays aboard. Right, this horse is drawn really well. Is going to have the best draw that he's had. So yeah, I liked Mickley here to kind of maybe show a little bit of improvement on the stretch out. Um, I went back and forth on the six, and your kind of a little spiel there probably has convinced me to move that horse up a little bit. Um, because I'll be honest, I originally read that AP as AA, and so I just thought that Ed Zenny rode this horse twice in a row. But yeah, I didn't even know that there was an AP jock, so that tells you all you need to know there. So
He hasn't been hitting the board much, so it's hard to see his name
well,
show up.
that's probably why I don't know he's riding. But yeah, I mean, obviously bred to go the longer distances. Maybe this is going to be I was a little concerned about the post, but I think like you might have mentioned earlier, like going this distance post probably doesn't matter as much, especially since it seems to be kind of like a mid pack type. So just has to get clear a couple of horses, doesn't have to clear the entire field. So
Y- Yeah, 2000 is tough. I mean, it is a short run up to the turn a little bit. It reminds me of 1650 at Happy Valley a little bit,
mm,
where you do have to get positioned pretty quick. Um, but like you said, I do think he could slot in, and I think if anyone's going to figure it out, it's J Mac. So
all right, and then the last race in this pick three, race 11, the Aero Velocity Handicap. We're going to be going 6 furlongs, 1,200 meters here. And, it took a little bit of talking myself into not just singling the one Lady's Choice. Um, I really wanted to just single the one. I mean, I think this is kind of a versatile horse. I think it's the best horse in the race. Is drawn decently well, drawn in the five post. Does the weight catch up to Lady's Choice here? I'm not sure, right? Is one at 125, one at 127 is now carrying 135 here. JMax stays aboard. Um, a couple questions maybe, right? But gets a good draw. Has shown tactical speed. Has shown, yeah, I mean, as one wire to wire, has one sitting just off. So I don't know, I think that I really like this horse. And like I said, I was borderline going to single that horse. The other A I had was the six Majestic Express, and yeah, this is kind of more of a one run closer here, going 6 furlongs, right? You kind of look back at the race four back, and same thing, outside drawn, kind of just let everyone kind of go in front of him. You see the note says awkward start, but was able to close in very very well. Right, you see 21.7 and 22.27 for those closing fractions. That's pretty damn good. And last time out, basically almost repeated that, and just missed by 3/4 of a length, kind of sitting off. Um, my only concern is right you're basically giving all these horses a 4 or 5 length lead, and you're gonna be sitting in third, 12th or 13th. I mean, you got to be the best horse to kind of win that sometimes, especially going 6 furlongs. So, um, a little bit of concern there, but I do think this horse has got a bit of talent. Has got a pretty decent closing kick, and hey, I mean, sometimes you see these horses that move from class four to class three, and they don't really like back it up. I mean, the horse hasn't been embarrassed in class three since moving up, right? I mean, we're talking three. Okay, lost that first race by 3 1/4 lengths, but then a length and then 3/4 of a length. So I think he's right there. I think with the right trip and the right pace in front of him, I think the six Majestic Express obviously makes a ton of sense here. Is drawn a little outside, but I'm not going to be too concerned. And then the last horse I have is the nine Prince of Porty. And you know, this is just kind of a horse I kind of looked at, and I don't think I think he's got a couple of back races that actually fit here. Obviously, they were the 1400 races there. You know, I mean, finished second to Lucy in the Sky, who's a very, very nice horse, um, three back, and so has a little bit of talent. Maybe a couple of questions on whether this is going to be too hard of a too hard of a group here, but you know, I think has run its best races probably at 7, so maybe a little concerned about the cut back to 6. But you know, you get Matthew Poon aboard here. Hasn't ridden this horse yet, but you know, Matthew Poon's actually, I think he's had a pretty decent start to the season. I mean, he's at about 9%. And like, yeah, like you say that and you're like, well, 9%. Well, when Zach's winning at like 30 something percent, like, you know, I think if you're getting close at double digits, like you're probably having a pretty solid year there. And you know, outside of really the 1 and the 6, I mean, maybe Storming Dragon has got a couple of back races that fit here, but I mean, Speed Pro really kind of likes some of his nines races and thinks that he's in here with a shot. So, um, you know, really, actually, they didn't hate that last race whatsoever. Now, granted, you know, we're talking about going from that 1 turn mile to 1200, but you know, I'm interested to see how this horse runs on the cutback. I think it's a good draw here, um, and uh, and yeah, I mean, I don't think is going to be just completely out of it. I think is going to sit that nice kind of mid trip. You know, might even settle on the rail here. You know, in that second or third flight, and might just trip out. So I'm looking for horses I think are good trips. I think the 4 and the 9 are good trips. Or sorry, the 1 and the 9 are going to get good trips. And I think you know, I think the 6, if stuff gets kind of funky up front and if he shows his turn of foot, I mean, he's got a good shot at winning this one as well.
I'm happy you're betting Principality because I've bet that horse a lot, and I wanted to do it again. I really did, but I was like, I can't. I think the field's just a little too salty. But I'm happy someone's betting it because again, I think that's the horse that like I kind of had wincing. Like this horse is gonna beat me finally once I don't
Hmm.
bet it. But so maybe you'll hit. But I agree with you on Lady's Choice. I agree with you on Majestic Express. I think I made them both Bs just for kind of the same reasons you stated, right? My concern with Lady's Choice is just picking up all that weight, right? Like I don't like horses picking up, what, 7 pounds, eight
Yeah.
pounds, something like that, and trying to wire a field, right? I do think this horse will be forward. It probably is the only speed in the race. It's just a lot to ask picking up all that weight and then having it wire around. So I, I think it on paper it still looks competitive. So I think you have to use it. And same with the 6, right? I mean, he's been running some pretty nice races, drops a couple pounds. I think he can get the right run, but is going to be spotting a fair bit of. It's going to try and be close into what I don't think is all that fast a pace. So, um, some concerns, but again, I do think is competitive. The other horses that I like, they're just a low weight here. I do think the 13 Victory Sky has some decent races, and I do think kind of similarly has been closing into at least last race closed into a pretty slow pace. Um, kind of jumped awkwardly. I mean, you read the line there, and it did break really poorly. You know, my you know my fetish is betting horses that suck at breaking and being like, oh, they're gonna fix it, and then all of a sudden the
Hmm.
horse doesn't break again, and I ask like, surprised, like, what the hell happened? Why didn't it break? Um, but I do think Gray like has shown kind of some versatility, could be forward, just shown some closing ability, and I do think is progressing up. So the draw stinks, but as we mentioned, maybe that doesn't matter here. So I'm willing to use that one. I think can kind of continue moving forward. I think it's kind of hitting that fourth or fifth race where you kind of expect that move forward and should be a pretty good price here. So that one I'll definitely be using as an A. I like the 14 Meowth as well. Um, just Matthew Chadwick gives me concern, right? I have in the last like 365, he's 1 for 84 at 1200, and last I checked, that's not really good. So the race last time looked okay, for sure. I think the race two back that it won in class 4 was obviously a very good effort first up, and obviously it's sitting at 119. So could show something here, but maybe I use it as a B. Maybe I just tossed entirely. I don't think Matthew Chadwick, who's the jockey you want at the distance, and maybe he just isn't competitive up in this class. So we'll see. But yeah, those are the only two I could think to use in this race, just based on the low weights and um, showing some competitive races in their arsenal. So
Yeah, I mean the 14 I think has got back races that fit absolutely.
yeah,
So
I wasn't sure the price you'd get on that horse either. People are going to see it's got a first and a second and ran well last time, and it's still sitting at low weight. I don't know.
so I have to ask, what is your bonus race?
I went with race 7. I mean, I could have gone with race 6 and just be like, "Hey, bet Kai Ying Rising," and it's great. But but I didn't. I went with the sandwich race there, and I probably picked the favorite, but we'll see. So
Who'd you go with?
I went with Gracious Express again. I'm gonna sip J Mac again. I think that horse just stands like head and shoulders above the rest of this field, and can I think it's that sandwich where you could kind of take it and say, okay, I'm going to play a ice cold double, Kai Ying Rising into this, or play this horse into a very competitive mile race in race 8. I do think that's the race if you're going to stay up with and watch. Race 8 is incredibly interesting. I think there's a lot of players in there. But yeah, for race 7, I'm going to go with Gracious Express, and we'll see the price I get. But
Unfortunately, I cannot win another beer off you in this race because
I still
I
owe
did
you.
not. I did not go to race 7. I went actually to race 4. And you know, I mean, this is honestly just what I look for, right? When I'm perusing, I look for these races where I see a horse that's got the talent to win, and is just going to get a very favorable pace scenario. And in this case, Luke Ferraris has got a shot to wire this race. Obviously he is the high weight, which I know you hate, and he's drawn in the 12 post, which is also just a huge negative. But it's Luke Ferraris, so I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to be betting this horse. Secondly, well, actually, Luke Ferraris is winning at over 10%, which
I was
actually
going to
kind of
say he's
shocks me
probably
a
one of the
little
better
bit.
jocks right now.
That kind
He's
of
been running
shocks me
well.
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. You don't see this often where you go through and like literally none of the other horses have even a 1 anywhere in their PPs, let alone, I mean, yeah, Fun Together should be able to get this lead pretty easily, even from the 12 post. Um, and he almost did it last time. He just got caught by Deva's 12 there. On the clash drop, but is basically staying at the same weight. So I don't see why he can't do it again. So I'm gonna go ahead and bet the 1 Fun Together. I'm hoping I get similar price I did last time. I think it was 10-1 last time out. You know, I'd be happy at something like 8-1, 7-1 on this horse, but we'll see what we get. And that's going to do it for us here on You've Got to Be Sha Tinning Me. Catch us on OnTheWrongLead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I think we're on the wrong lead on Blue Sky too now. Yeah, check out Matt Carlson at Slow and Steady. He'll have his entire card selection posted up there. I am at Cherry Drank. Yeah, we're back. We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep posting this nonsense. So hope you guys enjoy, and hopefully we make some money. Good luck, everyone.
But